This is the classification notes part 1 student presentation. You obviously have already made a copy of your classification notes, and you should have a split screen so that you can annotate, and at a minimum you are highlighting what I have highlighted. You absolutely should watch the additional videos and do the activities as you are asked to do so during this lecture. I'll know if you have done this. This is not a I didn't feel like doing it, maybe I'll do it sometime kind of thing. This is a I expect you to be doing this during class. You have a graded assignment that will disappear at the end of the day after class. I'll be watching all day. In addition, your Clades Comparison textbook scavenger hunt is due by Tuesday, that's tomorrow, by class. So if you have not finished it, if you never started it, you need to take care of it. It's on Friday, last Friday, March 5th's calendar. The classification test for this unit is on March 24th, which is in a couple of weeks. So we have started to talk about classification. And as I said, I find the rest of the school year to be pretty easy. So as long as you're taking care of business, you should be able to maintain or improve your grades. So what are you responsible for? Here are your AKS for this unit. We are going to focus today, and last week we focused on sort of getting to know the different clades, the different categories of classification, but we will then be much more focused on the evolutionary relationships between organisms. I am going to skip to slide 9. However, you are going to pause the video and you are going to look through your slides and you are going to make sure that you are highlighting at least what I have highlighted on these particular slides about the characteristics of living things and also the very basics of why we classify things to bring order to chaos and to organize. So we are going to start on the modern evolutionary classification system, which is a 3-domain system. So how do we focus on evolutionary relationships, or phylogeny? That's this word up here. That is the study of evolutionary relationships among organisms. We can use some tools. Once we know what those relationships are, we can use a cladogram. We're going to be doing a lab on this. We use cladograms, which are diagrams, to visualize what these relationships are. You should think of it like a tree. And think about a tree in your yard, especially now during the winter before the leaves come back. You can see all of the branches. The closer the branches are and the higher up the tree they are, the closer the evolutionary relationship. As you get towards the trunk, you are looking at more distant relationships. And if you've ever looked at a tree that has a single trunk, eventually everything is going to have something in common. Our ancestor, the original ancestor, far, far back. Okay? So as you know from our previous unit on evolution and also biotechnology and our biochemistry, we've talked about the evidence of evolution. And you know that evolution is all about DNA and the genes. So modern classification studies and systems use the DNA, the genes of organisms, to determine how much DNA and how many of the sequences are in common. So the more DNA you have in common, the more related something is. And also, the more DNA you have in common, the more recently related something is. This is a better way to classify organisms, because the old way, before there were microscopes, and even as recently as when I was your age, we looked a lot at physical similarities, and this was really subjective and not accurate. Just because something looks similar doesn't make it related. For example, you can think about some bugs that resemble sticks, but we know that bugs, insects, are certainly not plants. So looking at DNA is a much better way of doing things because looks can deceive you. So as you watch the phylogeny and the tree of life video, and I have it in two formats here. One is the Screencastify, that's the big link, and below it is the YouTube link, and supposedly you should be able to watch the YouTube link. If not, watch the Screencastify one. So as you watch, focus on these two questions. How does classification organize life from most broad, that's the biggest category, to most narrow, the smallest category? Also, how does classification organize life from most distantly related to most recently related? And when you are done watching the videos, I'm not kidding, watch the video, come back here. You have a checkpoint to do, so click it and complete the classification checkpoint 1 now, and then come back. You have one attempt, and it's going in the gradebook. We're going to move on to the 3-domain system. So as you watch this new video, it's a little bit shorter, but it's still a little bit long. What are the 3 domains of life and how can they be compared? He's going to use a Venn diagram. Feel free to use your own Venn diagram to keep up. So again, there's 2 versions. There's the Screencastify version and there's the YouTube version. So watch one of them, come back when you are done. So we are going to take a look at the 3-domain system. This is a system that is used now. It's archaea, bacteria, and eukarya, and it's classified for molecular analyses. So again, we are looking at the DNA, and then we have grouped organisms based on those evolutionary relationships. So we are going to take a look at all 3 systems, and then we are also going to be taking a look at the kingdoms that fall within them. You are going to need to pause, you are going to need to read, you are going to need to highlight, and you are going to want your clades, the clades comparison table that you've done, because if I think it's important, you should probably think it's important, and you might want to check your table against these notes. So we're going to start the domain archaea. Archaea means ancient or old or first, and this is going to reflect to the oldest domain. It contains organisms that came first. So we are talking about unicellular prokaryotic organisms. So remember the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes. Prokaryotic organisms do not have organelles and they do not have an enclosed nucleus. So inside the cell membrane and the cell wall, you are going to have everything that you have to maintain life just sort of floating around in the cytoplasm. This does not mean that these organisms do not have DNA or that they don't have, in this case, ribosomes. They do. It's just floating around freely. So the interesting thing about the organisms in this domain is that they are found in some of the most extreme environments. You can find them in things like volcanic hot springs or really super salty or super acidic organisms. These also include organisms that can survive in atmospheres that have no oxygen, which is kind of cool. But if you think back to what the planet used to look like millions and millions and millions of years ago, and it was a pretty hostile environment. So it makes sense that these organisms have those kinds of characteristics. Make sure that you are highlighting what I have highlighted. Read through it all. The second domain is bacteria. It includes the kingdom Eubacteria. So both Archaeobacteria and Eubacteria are both bacteria, so they're unicellular and the prokaryotic. But these are the bacteria that you typically think of, like including the bacteria that live in your stomach, E. coli. And the primary difference between these bacteria and Archaeobacteria are the makeup of their cell wall. So peptoglycan is just a substance. pretty fancy term, but archaebacteria do not have cell walls containing peptidoglycan, while eubacteria, eu means true bacteria, do. So you can read through the rest of the rest of the slide, and highlight as you see fit. You'll notice that the slides sort of follow a pattern. It's going to talk about the makeup. It's going to talk about where they are. It's going to talk about how they use their metabolism, how they reproduce, and how they move in some cases. So they're all sort of set up the same way. So here's just another breakdown of the kingdom eubacteria. So this is giving you a little bit more information about the movement, where you find them, and their reproductive. They're all asexual reproducers, but there's different ways to do that. Pause and read through it. The third kingdom is Eukarya, and we're going to have a checkpoint before we go through Protista, fungi, plantae, and Animalia. But Eukarya includes all the organisms that have a nucleus, and it includes those kingdoms. So we are going to stop here and do checkpoint number 2. So remember, you have one attempt, and it is going in the gradebook. Come back when you are done. So now you should definitely be checking through your clades comparison table. So if you have not pulled that up already, you really do need to. You're going to need to pause and read and check against it. So I know that in some cases you might have had difficulty finding movement, especially in your textbook. So here it is on the slides. So they're going to distinguish what they are, and then they are going to go through the different categories that are found on your slides also. The interesting thing about Kingdom Protista is that it's not a true clade or not a true kingdom or a category. You should think about protists like in your kitchen. If you have that junk drawer, you have a drawer or, I don't know, some sort of container that sort of holds all the random stuff that doesn't really fit anywhere else. And that's what Kingdom Protista is. It's a category where it's full of organisms that don't fit in any other category. So read the definition here. It's any eukaryotic organism, so it's heterotrophic, it has a nucleus, but it's not a plant, not a fungus, not an animal, and in this case, obviously not a prokaryote. So they're just kind of these weird things that have various characteristics of maybe more than one category, and we haven't quite fit them in where they belong. But as we tend to look at the DNA, they're going to find their home for sure. Here's a close-up of some common Protista, Paramecia and amoebas and euglenos. We talk about those a lot in biology classes. And then you have some that cause diseases like trypanosoma. That is a parasitic protista that causes sleeping sickness. Or is that the one that causes malaria? I forget. Anyhow, causes a disease, and it's pretty gross. Moving on to fungi. All right, so eukaryotic heterotrophic. They have cell walls made up of chitin. So here's where we have our mushrooms, our molds, slime molds, and yeasts. Yeasts are unicellular but heterotrophic. The cool thing about fungi is that they don't truly eat the way that we think they eat. They obtain food from either absorbing or taking from decaying matter. So they are great recyclers. Different ways of asexual reproduction. Some more ways of asexual reproduction. Kingdom Plantae, these are your plants. True plants are multicellular. There are no unicellular true plants. They are photosynthetic and they make their own food. They are autotrophs. Movement is a little bit odd with this because they don't get up and walk away, certainly. So they don't move that way. But plants definitely move in response to environmental changes. Like, for example, a plant will turn towards the sun, or the Venus flytrap. When a bug lands on it, it will snap shut. Okay. And then the one that we're really familiar with, Kingdom Animalia, we belong to this. So we are multicellular, we're eukaryotic, heterotrophic, and then we do not have cell walls. Okay, all sorts of types of movement found in all parts of the biosphere, all different modes of reproduction. So Animalia is pretty diverse, and we will be looking at those clades a little bit further. So the last part about kingdom Animalia is sort of the difference between vertebrates and invertebrates, and then taking a look at body symmetry. When you look in a mirror, we are bilateral. We have a left and a right side, but not all organisms are made that way. And you should think of math when you think of this. We have radial, like a sea star, so there's a single part, and then it radiates out around it like a wheel. And then there is asymmetrical animals like sea sponges. No matter how you cut them, they're all going to come out unequal and weird looking different parts. All right. So take care of checkpoint 3, one attempt going in the grade book. And then finally, you are going to have a classification 1 review quiz. It is opening at 8:45. So between the 2 videos and this lecture, that should take you at least 30 minutes to do in class. And so that's why the quiz opens for my first period at 8:45. It will close at Wednesday, March 10th at 7 a.m. You may retake this quiz as many times as you need to in order to get the 100. Some of you continue to only take a quiz once and get a 20 on it. Do better. The quiz covers your living versus non-living article that was due last week, your clades comparison textbook scavenger hunt, which is due tomorrow before class, these notes, the lecture, and including the videos you just watched. Reminder, make sure that you finish your clades comparison textbook scavenger hunt. If you attended class last Friday online, you've already turned it in. So you just need to finish it, and I already have it. If you blew off class last Friday or weren't able to be there, you need to go find it and do it before tomorrow's class. And if you did it on paper, I expect the photo in the Dropbox. Take care of your business.